You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 300. Why do I still think about my ex all the time? Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. Last week, I shared the first thing I would do differently if I had to handle my breakup today. And it was getting my biology baseline locked down before trying to do any mental work. And I hope some of you took that homework seriously because what we're diving into today builds directly on that foundation. So first, let me guess what's been happening in your brain since last Monday's episode. You're trying to regulate your nervous system. Maybe you've been doing some breath work, protecting your sleep, eating actual meals, and your ex is still living rent-free in your head. Maybe you wake up thinking about them, you go to bed thinking about them, you're having full-on conversations with them in the shower, right, in your head. You see a random street sign and somehow it reminds you of that one time you drove past it together 3 years ago, right? And then you start spiraling into, oh my gosh, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I just stop thinking about someone who clearly doesn't want me? Here is what I want you to know. There is nothing wrong with you. Boo, there is nothing wrong with you. I promise. Your brain thinking about your ex constantly, it is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness. There's nothing wrong with you. That is actually your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do when something significant got ripped out of your life. But the part that most people don't understand, and this is what I wish I had known back in 2016 when I was having those 2 a.m. panic attacks with my dad, is that the quality of your thoughts about your breakup determines the quality of your life after your breakup, right? Thoughts create feelings. Always, always, always. The way you think will determine how you're feeling. And this means the quality of your thoughts about yourself, about your breakup, about your future will determine the quality of your life and the way that you live now in the present moment and in the future. So when I was drowning in my heartbreak, I thought the problem was that I was thinking about my ex. I thought if I could just stop thinking about him, if I could erase him from my mind, I would feel better. But that's not exactly the problem. Like, of course, if we went thoughtless and we just had no thoughts, or if we had some sort of brain damage where we could not remember our ex, we'd find a Zen state. But most of humans out in the world aren't living a life in a Buddhist temple, like working on releasing all thoughts forever. And the problem isn't that you're thinking about your ex. I know that you think it is, but the problem is not that you're constantly thinking about your ex. The problem is what you're thinking about your ex and what you're making the breakup mean about you. Every thought you think will create and generate an emotion, and every emotion will drive and fuel your actions and behaviors in this world, and those actions create your outward results. So when you're thinking thoughts like, I still love him, he was my person, I'll never find anyone like him again, I must have done something wrong, how do you feel? Right? You feel fucking terrible, desperate, sad, angry, hopeless. And when you feel that way, what are you doing? You're staying in bed, you're stalking his social media, you're replaying every conversation, looking for clues about where it went wrong, you're making decisions, hoping to get his attention. But what if, and stay with me here, what if the story you're telling yourself or about the breakup or about him, what if all of those were optional? What if he was my person is just a sentence in your brain that is not factual? What if I'll never find love again like that is just a thought you've been thinking on repeat, but not the truth about your future? This is what I mean when I say it's time to rebuild the relationship with yourself, because the relationship you have with yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you hold on to about you, that relationship got completely shattered during your breakup. And most people, we try to rebuild it by being mean to ourselves, right? We think if we just criticize ourselves enough, if we just judge ourselves enough, push or punish ourselves enough, then we'll beat ourselves into submission to do better and be better. But that is not right. That's just not right. It's like watering a plant with bleach instead of water. It doesn't work. So here's what I would do differently now. I would get really fucking curious about my thoughts instead of just believing them. Every single one. Every time my brain offered up, he was my person, I would ask myself, is that really true? What is it costing me to believe this? Every time my brain said, I'll never find anyone like him, I would say, good. Do I actually want someone like him? Or do I want someone even better? And every time my brain would say, I must have done something wrong, I would ask, what if we both just did our best with the tools we had at the time and his best wasn't good enough for me? What if this breakup happened for me and not to me? Because when you start questioning your thoughts instead of just believing them automatically, when you start treating yourself with the same compassion you'd show your best friend going through a breakup, everything fucking changes. Instead of I'm broken, you start thinking I'm healing. Instead of I'll never be happy again, you start thinking this is temporary pain for permanent growth. Instead of I lost my future, you start thinking I actually get to create an even better future. And when you think those thoughts, how do you feel, right? You might feel hopeful, curious, maybe even, do I dare say, excited about what's possible. And when you feel that way, what do? You start taking care of yourself. You start making decisions based on what you want, not what might get his attention. You start building a life that feels good to you. And now, I know some of you are thinking, Dorothy, this sounds like toxic positivity. I can't just think my way out of heartbreak. And listen, you're right. You can't just slap a positive thought over a painful experience and call it healed. That's why we started with biology baseline. That's why your nervous system needs to be regulated first. But once your body is safe and it feels safe, once you've gotten that foundation in place, then you can start doing the real work of rebuilding that relationship with yourself, which is all about the thoughts you're thinking for you. And this is exactly what we dive deep into inside of the Get Over Your Ex program. We don't just tell you to think positive. We give you this very specific tools and process to examine your thoughts, question those stories, and consciously choose to believe what you need to believe in a way that serves your healing instead of keeping you stuck. Because here is what I've learned after working with, again, thousands of people. The ones who get over their exes the fastest aren't the ones who stop thinking about them. They're the ones who change what they think about when they're thinking about their exes and what they make their breakup mean about themselves. So here's your work this week. I really want you to start paying attention to the story you're telling yourself about your breakup. Write it down. Get curious about it. Ask yourself, is this story serving my healing or is it keeping me stuck? You don't have to change anything yet. Just notice it. Just get curious about it because awareness is the first step to that freedom. So next week, I'm going to be diving into the thing you've been craving since the day your ex left. Real closure. I know you want you want him to come back and apologize and tell you he made a huge mistake. I know you want answers about why he left and what you could have done differently. And honestly, you might get that. But what if I told you there's a way to get closure that doesn't depend on him doing anything at all and a way to feel complete and free regardless of whether he ever reaches out again? Because we are going to talk about that next week. And we're going to talk about doing things on your terms to make sure that you get something even better. I want you to win either way, whether your ex comes back or not. And I'm getting so deliciously excited because the surprise that I mentioned last week, it's coming soon. And it's specifically for those of you who are tired of taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back in your healing journey. So until then, be gentle with yourself, brave hearts. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. I love you, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.